All right. Coming in a little bit early. What's up, everyone? All right, welcome to YouTube. Gonna do a guitar workout tonight. Hopefully some of you are tuning in from my previous Facebook lives on Friday. Just gonna check and make sure that we're check 1, 2. All right, welcome. I think everybody found it okay. Everybody check in the description underneath this video. There should be a link to some tabs. Hello there, welcome. I'm assuming we're going to have a lot of new people tonight. I hope a lot of regulars from Facebook Live are jumping in tonight. Right on, Peter. Awesome. Cool. Excellent. Well, I hope that this works really well. Please go ahead and expand the description underneath the video. There should be a link. Peter, if you can let me know that you've got the tabs for tonight. Sophia, all right, we got it. We're here. All right, welcome everybody. Elias, excellent. We got some regulars here tonight. Perfect. Excellent. Okay. Yeah, let me know if it's a problem with the, all right, Susan's here. Excellent. Welcome. Co Young, welcome. All right. Sour Z, Jim. Jim made it. Excellent. Okay, so we got a good bunch here tonight. So for those of you new to what we're doing here, we've been doing for the last almost a year. We've been on Facebook Friday nights, and we're switching over to YouTube now. So we're going to see how this goes tonight. This is the maiden voyage. So I hope all is good so far. It seems to be. I hope it continues for the hour. And what I'll do is I'll have a topic, guitar-related topic, each Friday at this time. Do a little bit of a lesson. I'm going to probably provide tabs every Friday for whatever we're going over. And tonight actually is one of the things that I do every 3 weeks, which is called a guitar workout, where I just put together some, I find very useful practice exercises, some approaches, maybe some things you haven't seen before on the guitar. And I'll try to range it from beginner level up to intermediate. Okay. Hey, everybody. Murray's here. Greetings from Libya. Wow. Welcome. And Mr. Daniel's here as well. Welcome. Excellent. So if you want to expand the description underneath this video, there should be a link. You'll see get the tab for tonight's session. And there's a link to download some tabs. It's a PDF. And I'm going to go through this stuff and do a little bit of instruction. But mostly this is about getting, just some playing time in, some common sort of exercises, examples, that sort of thing, just some different guitar techniques, different things that you can think about when practicing the guitar, and hopefully inspiring a little bit and developing, your skills just generally. And what I do with this format is I'll do some instruction for the first half hour to 45 minutes, and the remaining time left in the hour, I will take any guitar-related questions. So if you just want to put your questions in the comments, and I will scan through it when there's time remaining in the session, and I will get to as many questions as I can to hopefully help out. All right, so if you've got your tabs downloaded, open it up. Jim, this is a Wolfgang special, Eddie Van Halen guitar. It's a bit of a limited edition. You can sort of see the grain on that one. It's a sassafras wood, which I guess is somewhat like mahogany. So anyway, this is the axe tonight. No problem, Mr. Daniel. I hope you stick with us tonight and follow along. All good. Okay. Let's look at our first exercise, which is usually some sort of a warm-up, and tonight is no exception. Another variation of the good old chromatic warm-up, starting on the 5th fret. And this particular sequence is going to go index finger, pinky, middle finger, ring. So 5th and 8th, and then 6th and 7th fret. And what you want to do is alternate pick it. So it'll be a down, up, look like this. Okay? No kidding, Peter. Wow, I did not know that. That's pretty cool. Awesome. The original Strat for Eric Johnson was made out of that wood. I had no idea. That's really cool. Okay? So that's the sequence, and we're just going to apply that to all of the strings, going up the string. So going nice and slow. And once again, this is the idea of this is just get a warm-up in, get the fingers moving, and get your picking going. This is an excellent exercise to work on alternate picking, where you're just going to go down, up all the way through. Okay. And once you get up to the top, you're going to come up 1 fret with your index finger, and it's going to go actually in reverse, because we were kind of playing pinky to index and then ring to middle. And now we're going to go in reverse. We're going to go index to pinky, middle to ring. And then come down the strings. Okay, so that's the 6th, 9th, 7th, 8th. Okay, and just come down the strings with that. Still down, up, down, up. All right, so be sure to work on your timing, just nice and smooth with that. Okay, it's always better to go slowly. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit and show you that you can just continue with this sequence all the way up the fretboard. Okay, so let's say I wanted to start it on the 3rd fret. Okay, and it's just use the exact same sequence of fingers on it. Sorry, I went in reverse. So we're going to go pinky, index, ring, middle. Messed it up. Messed it up. So I was thinking about ending it. Okay, so that's the idea. You can do this for a couple minutes. You can do this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Use a metronome, bump the speed up and down, but you want to find somewhere that's comfortable for you to get through it. You don't want to be stumbling around a little bit. If you're stumbling around with this exercise, that automatically means just roll the speed back, slow it down. It's better, much better to practice slow than trying to go too fast. Okay. All right, so just yet another variation of the chromatic warm-up, right? Of which there are, it almost feels like I'm always getting close to having covered all of them, but I always think of something else. So there you go. Mr. Daniel, which musical genres do you really play with your guitar? Well, this is a rock and roll guitar, and I love rock. You can play metal with this, rock, pop. You can get a lot of tones out of this. This is very versatile with a couple humbuckers in it. Okay, it excels as a rock guitar, but you can get some good clean sounds out of it too. So you can kind of play a whole bunch of genres with it. Strumming Susan, since I can't fret for a while because of my hand, I'm still working on alternate picking the open strings with my good hand with the metronome. Excellent, Susan. So just remember that, Unfortunately, Susan has some repetitive strain injury type issues with her hands, which are, really dangerous to kind of, try and do stuff with guitar. So, sort of sitting it out is the best possible thing to do. You don't want to overdo it and do more damage. So yeah, just stop immediately if there's any pain, discomfort, all that kind of stuff. So it's great that you can still work on some stuff like that. That's going to do a lot. Okay. All right. Mr. Daniel's a black metal guy. Drop C. Excellent. Right on. I've got a guitar that's a full step down and can drop it down to C if need be. So fun stuff. There you go. If you're not able to fret anything, Peter's got a great idea. Tune your guitar to open G and it'll sound like a chord. Not a bad idea. All right. Okay, so what I thought I would do, a super simple, just a dynamic, expressive idea here. We can work on a few sort of a little more beginner techniques here. This is exercise 2, and this is a power chord dynamic build, I call it. And so what we've got is we've got the A power chord, so that's the open A string, and you're barring down at the 2nd fret of the D and G strings. So you've got a root, a 5th, and another root, octave root. And there's no 3rd in that chord. It's just a power chord, okay? And this is a very simple straight down strokes on 8th notes. So you're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay, nice and even. And as you can see, we're going to slide up in the 2nd bar to an upper chord shape. And this one is going to be the 7th fret of the D, 9th fret of the G, 10th fret of the B. Now this is an A, E, and A note. So this is also an A power chord. And you may not know this particular shape. This is a power chord shape where the root is on the 4th string. And what happens is when you go for that 3rd note on the chord, it's not just the same as what's on the G string. You have to come up one more fret on the B string because the B string is tuned flat. So you have this different power chord shape. So that's the first thing I want to show you in this exercise is that you can make power chords with the root on the 4th string and have the upper octave. It's just got to be up in one more fret extra on the B string. Okay? Right. So what we're going to do is transition to that shape from the open chord, 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so there's a few things at work here. If you look at the tab, I've got like this sort of dynamic indicator that is opening up as you play those chords. And the idea is that you want to dig in louder and louder as you play through that 2nd bar, okay? Okay, so this is an example of something, some sort of song where we're doing a dynamic build, okay? We're playing at this level, and towards the end of that 2nd bar, we're going to ramp up that dynamic, and maybe we're going into a chorus where that chorus is going to be louder, a louder part of the arrangement, or a bridge or something. You're building somewhere, okay? So this is a really great technique because what we're doing is we're playing an A chord all the way through it, right? But just by starting at the open A and then just going up an octave to a higher A power chord, that also builds the dynamic and builds the whole section, right? So this is a great technique, even if you weren't to dig in with the strums. Okay, where it can get you into another section or build some dynamic or build some texture into your playing. And I use this all the time. You're sort of following a chord chart and you're going to build into a different section or you're going to switch to another chord. Okay, just when you do that, when you bring that chord up an octave like that, it builds the intensity. It goes somewhere. Okay, so beyond that, I just want to show you what you don't have to do this off an A power chord. We can do this off of fretted chords. Okay, so for example, well, first of all, let's go back here and see what constitutes going up to the higher octaves. So we've got the low root is the open A string, okay? And then the next A note for the chord we're going to grab is on the 7th fret of the next string up. So if you think about how the roots move, you could transpose this really easily, like say if it is a C power chord, okay? 3rd fret of the 5th string, and then the 5th fret of the 4th and 3rd string. Now, if I think about that previous example with the A power chord, in order to build on a C chord, I would just think 7 frets up from where I'm at. Okay, so that's the 3rd fret. If I add 7 to it, that would take me to the 10th fret and put that root note on the next string up. Boom, there's the octave. So now I know where to go. Okay, and another thing you can do is just keep your index finger down on the 5th string. Even though your root is on the 4th string, the 5th is on the same fret on the lower string. So it actually thickens that chord as you go up. So okay. Same thing on a different string set. For example, if I used a G power chord, or let's go beyond that. Let's go to the open E power chord. Okay, I'm going from a low E power chord up an octave to another E power chord, 7th fret of the A, and then the 9th fret of the D and G. Now in this case, it's got that symmetrical shape because I'm not on the B string, right? So as a last example, if you went from the G chord, 3rd fret of the low string, the octave for the G note would be 7 frets up on the next string, which is from the 3rd, that's going to be the 10th fret. There we go. Just get a power chord up there so you can go. All right, so lots of stuff in there to work on. I know it's a relatively simple strum pattern, but the idea here is tried and true. It's great to work on your dynamics as a rhythm guitar player, and this is a great exercise to do that, as well as get comfortable switching octaves with your power chords in order to build into the next section, okay? All right. Oh, there we go. Another variation on the chromatic exercise. Excellent. Changing up the finger every time. Paul has got a question. When doing scales, pinky or no pinky? Totally depends. Be honest about your pinky's ability. It's always good to practice and try to get better. The pinky's usually the weak spot for everybody. So try to incorporate it as much as you can. If you're doing stretch, 3 note per string, scales, excuse me, you're going to need that pinky, especially down low because you've got stretches, right? Okay. But I always find that if I'm in the upper register, the top half, or, from the 12th fret up, I'm less likely to use the pinky unless I'm doing a really big stretch, like something up here, right? Right? But a lot of times I'll just use the first 3 fingers, like, E minor pentatonic. Okay, I didn't use the pinky at all, but it's always good to practice that. It's not really strict on guitar as far as, where the fingers have to, 1 fret per finger in every position. You could try to do that, but there's a lot of different ways to fret stuff. So just kind of whatever makes sense for you. But I would just say, don't avoid the pinky, work on it if you know it's a weakness. And, especially when you're practicing, just try to make it as strong as you can. Okay. Sophia's got a music theory question. In the bar, in the key of E flat, any E that we have on the bar is an E flat. But what happens if we have the accidental double flat on the note E? Would that be an E double flat? That is correct. So that's going to be 1 fret down from an E flat. Okay? Does it make sense? Those keys, I would have to have a longer explanation on what key signature you're in, but there are cases where you have double sharps and double flats, and it's just the way that you have to think about the notes in order for them to work out in a certain key signature, okay? So if there is a double flat on the note E, then that's going to be 2 frets down from E, or it's going to be 1 fret down from E flat, right? But would that be an E flat or an E double? No, it would be an E. No, it'd be an E double flat, because the signature of E is already an E flat. That's a really confusing one, man. I don't know how I would answer that one. Yeah, so what key are we in is the question. I would have to know what the key is, what the key signature is, to be able to figure out what's going on with that. It sounds very confusing. I apologize. So give me a little more information. And so the key is E flat, right? So I'm not sure why we would need a double flat, because you could just notate it as an E, or I'm sorry, a D, right? So I would have to see the example of what it is, but it sounds very strange. So I'm not sure. You know, Peter's got the notes in E flat, right? And D is in fact the major 7th in the key of E flat. So I don't know why there would need to be an E double flat. Not sure. Yeah, that's a weird question. All right, moving on. Hopefully we can spend a little more time on it towards the end of the session. Okay, so exercise 3, we're going to get into some strumming, okay? And I'm going to play off an A chord, and we're going to throw just a little wrench into it by using some susses here on the A chord. And the sus is going to be, well, here's an A major in open position where you've got 2nd fret of the D, G, and B, okay? And you've got the open A and the open high E string. Now to make suspended chords, what you want to do is identify the 3rd in the chord, which in this case is the C sharp note on the B string 2nd fret. And you want to either move that up 1 fret or down 2 frets to make either a sus4 or a sus2. Okay, so you're replacing the 3rd in the chord with either a 2nd or a 4th. And it gives you a really common way to embellish on a chord. So I'm going to play through this exercise right now. Okay, so what we've got here is down up strums. We've got 8th note strumming, 1 and 2 and you'll notice that there's no downstroke after that 4th strum. And also on that upstroke, you're going to want to change the chord so that you're moving your finger to the 3rd fret of the B string. So there's a few things going on here. Okay. Thanks, Christopher, to the rescue. Thank you, sir. Okay, and then we're going to hold on to this sus4 chord for the rest of the bar. And so what we're doing is we're taking out the downstroke right after that 4th strum, but then coming back in on the upstroke. So down, up, down, and. All right? Now, the key to making this strum work is that you want to keep relaxed and keep this motion going. Okay? Do you notice? I'm still doing the downstroke. I'm just not striking the strings. And that's going to make it easier for me to keep this flow going so that I stay in time. Okay, and then I'm going to continue into the second bar, and the second time when I change chords, I'm going to be taking the pinky off. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so it's a great exercise because you're learning how to use, get the sound of a suspended chord onto a chord, learning a trick that you can use on this A open chord, but also getting used to keeping the rhythm going by strumming most of the strums, but laying out on some of them, even though you're going through the motion of it, right? And that helps you keep time. Okay, this motion is what gives you nice solid timing. If we were to do something like this, do you see how I stopped and then it was kind of awkward to go back to that upstroke right after that? That's what throws off your timing. So just try and keep this flow going as best you can. All right, nice little easy strum exercise. Now let's move on to the second one here, 3B. And I'm going to move to a D chord. I'm still going to play with some suspendeds. And in this case, again, I'm putting your third is on the top string, right? Okay. And so to get a sus4, I would just add my pinky on the third fret of the high string. And in order to get the high string, to get the sus2, you got to go to the open high string. So you're pulling your finger off the high string. Okay. You've heard this sound in tons of songs, right? Great embellishment on a D chord. This particular one's a little bit tricky because I'm adding in a pull off and then a hammer on as you're holding on to the chord. So let's look at this. It goes like this. Yes, Paul. Okay, so this particular riff is very similar to what you'd hear in a Bon Jovi song, okay? Now, what's interesting about this one is that it's all downstrokes, okay? But once you introduce the pull-off, okay, you have to come right back on the and of 3 with another downstroke. 1 and 2 and 3 and, okay? 1E and 2E and 3E and, okay? So it's a little bit tricky, so you just got to go slow with it. This is a great practice for you to hold a chord and practice pulling off and hammering on notes while you've got your other fingers holding onto a chord. Okay, a lot of times when we practice this stuff, it's single notes, that kind of thing. In this case, you're holding onto a chord. So a way to practice this is maybe take it in chunks if that feels really awkward to you, and just do a strum and practice each one after the other, and then try the whole thing in the context of the strum pattern. Right? Cool. All right, and then exercise 3C, we've got a D chord once again, And this is just a different strum pattern. There's no hammer-ons or pull-offs in this particular example, but this has got some syncopation. Syncopation is when you're strumming or accenting on the offbeats, which in this case would be the upstrokes, okay? This is still a 16th note groove, so we're going 1E and a 2E and a, okay? So notice all those upstrokes after the first two downstrokes. Two. Once again, you want to keep that motion going. Messed it up. One more time. Okay? That one might be from a Guns N' Roses song, right? Add in a few more strums for groove, but you've got those accents, right? Those upstroke accents syncopated happening in between the beats. Right? So this exercise, 3 great examples of how to embellish a chord with suspensions, sus2, sus4, okay? Hammer-ons and pull-offs, syncopated strums, really cool stuff to dig into, okay? So go slow with it at first and really sort of try to get it as smooth as you can. All right. Yes. Mr. Daniel, what about playing an E minor chord on standard tuning? Right? Where would you like me to play the E minor chord? Open position, right? Up here? Cool. Okay. So thank you, Christopher, for jumping in on Sophia's question. That is it gets a little tricky with that kind of stuff. So I appreciate it. All right, exercise 4. We've got some arpeggio exercises. And this is really cool just for fretting techniques. You're going to use some finger rolls to be able to make this exercise happen a little bit. And there's a number of ways that you can pick it. Sort of the most common way is to sort of use economy picking. So in this, you could use alternate picking on each note, and that you would find that's really challenging because you're playing one note per string. And to do alternate picking when you're playing one note per string is, it ups the challenge a lot more. Probably an easier way to do something like this is to use all downstrokes if you're going up. Okay, so this is just one example of C major arpeggios in 2 different positions. So we're going to go up in one position and slide up and come down another position. Now, what's a chord arpeggio? A chord arpeggio is a series of single notes played distinctly that are the notes from a chord. In this case, C major. Okay, so there are 3 notes in C major: the root, the third, and the fifth. In the case of a major chord, the third is a major third interval from the root. Root, major third, fifth. In the key of C, that's going to be C, E, and G. Okay, so all of these notes in this particular exercise are C notes, E notes, and G notes. All right, and you learn these shapes to get around the fretboard, be able to play those notes, highlight those notes of a chord. Okay, and beyond that, this is just a great picking exercise, a great technique exercise, just loosening the fingers and getting a little more mobility on the fretboard. So even at its very least, it can be doing that for you, okay? Excellent, Jason, right on. Okay, so we are starting with a C note with your pinky. So you can see like kind of where the 5th fret is sort of the lowest anchor point in this particular position, okay? If you're thinking about the caged system, there is a full C major pattern that lies and ties in with these notes, okay? Now, in order to get this up to speed a little bit, what you'll find is that there's a lot of 5th fret movement. And the idea behind this is that you don't want the notes to ring together. That's when you're arpeggiating an actual chord. In this case, we want to play distinct single notes. So we want to cut off each note as we go to the next one, like that. So you see, as soon as I go to the next note, I'm lifting my finger off that note on the low string, and I'm also dampening it with my picking hand, right? Now, what's going to happen is that at some point in this, you're going to play 5, 5, and 5 on 3 different strings, 5th fret, right? And so this requires a little bit of a finger roll, because if you're just bar down, okay, it's hard to mute those upper strings. So with a little bit of just like rolling that finger, okay, the pad of the finger, or even just going with the tip of the finger on the low string and then patting down on the G and then sort of lifting off and patting the other part, right? Okay, so that's something to kind of work on when you're thinking about this. All right, those are all the notes that are in a C major chord in this position, played one after the other. And then we're going to shift up and come back down this position. In this position, we've got the C chord as the C major bar chord, 8th position now. You can see that we're anchored on the 8th position with your index finger. So we've gone from the 5th to the 8th. Okay. Once again, a little bit of a finger roll, this time on the ring finger around the 10th fret. Okay, and also the 8th fret, top 2 strings. This is the chord shape in that spot. Here are the extra notes. Okay. So cool little exercise right there. Let's see if I can get through it. I'm going to go nice and slow here and see if I can get through it with, once you kind of get it under the fingers, try and go smooth with some steady timing. So let's see. Now, of course, we've got the companion piece to this one, which is the C minor arpeggio. So we've got some slightly different patterns here, or slightly different note shapes, okay? Because that major third now comes down a semitone and becomes a minor third, okay? All the other notes are the same. The root and the 5th stay the same in this chord, but it's that third that changes. So that requires a little bit of a different pattern. If you do them back to back, immediately you're going to hear the difference, right? Really tie in the ear. Then you shift positions. Okay, so in that first position, you've got sort of chord shapes that you don't normally fret all 6 strings on, but certainly parts of these. Okay? But the more familiar shape is when you come down. Right on, Mr. Daniel. That's really cool. I like that. That sort of thing, right? That's actually a great exercise if you want to use tremolo picking. If nobody knows what tremolo picking is, it's when you pick across the string really fast, right? Which they got from surf. There you go, Jason. there you go, black metal and surf. Somebody should combine those, right? Cool, so let's just do that exercise one time through. I cheesed out on a note there, but so I got some practicing to do, everybody. All right, so just some arpeggios there. Of course, that second position, you know, is your minor bar chord shape, root 6, right? Root on the 6th string. Cool, always good to know arpeggios, fun to practice, challenging with the picking, also with the finger rolls, right? Good stuff. Okay, exercise 5. I've got an arpeggiated riff. I'm going to play it first. Goes like this. Mostly power chords, but we start off with sort of a variation on a power chord. Okay. I put on the tab that this is sort of like an Andy Summers type thing. You can think of Message in a Bottle. Every Breath You Take, he used these chord shapes. Also, Dave Matthews uses this kind of thing on the acoustic, right? So I'm going to take, here's your C sharp regular power chord shape. 4th fret of the A, 6th fret of the D and G. Okay. Now, I've got C sharp here. I've also got the octave of C sharp on the G string, 6th fret. If I move up 2 frets on that G string, now I've got 2 frets apart. You're essentially making it a sus2, okay? Because you're adding the 2 onto it from the root. 2 frets up is the 2nd, okay? So a lot of times you'll see this chord as a 5/2. Okay, like say C sharp 5/2. C sharp 5 would just mean power chord. C sharp 5/2 means add a 2nd onto it. Okay, but it also could just be notated as C sharp sus2. Okay, really cool chord shape. All over the 90s, we had rock songs that used that kind of sound in the riffs, right? What we're doing here is arpeggiating the chords. So notice the picking on this. Okay, 2 downstrokes. And then when I get to the highest note of the chord, I'm switched to upstroke when I come back down. Down, down, up, up. Cliffs of Dover starts the same way from the G note 6th string. I think he plays it with a different shape though, doesn't he? For sure he's using those type of intervals, but I feel like he's not using that chord shape. I could totally be wrong. Look, I can't play, I haven't tried to, I can't do the Cliffs of Dover thing, so he may well be doing that. That's cool. Black metal for this as well. Top 3 strings, same shapes. Really? So it would be what? Because you have to stretch one for the B string, right? Crazy. Anyway, let me finish my thought here. So just talking about the picking on this, because as you'll see, each chord has the same picking pattern on this example, example 5. So down, down, up, up. All right? E, A, D strings. There we go. Okay. I always think of the top strings as the higher string. These are the lower strings for me, low strings. So sorry for the confusion. Okay. Down, down, up, up. And then we're going to switch up. And this one is just going to be a straight E power chord. Okay. Then down a string set, but the same sus2 shapes, 7, 9, and 11 on the low 3 string. Okay, so we've got, and then down 2 frets to an A power chord, just a straight A power chord, 5th fret of the low string, 7th fret of the A and D. Okay. Now I've got it tabbed out with a little bit of palm muting. Okay, and you don't want to go too tight on something like this unless you're using a lot of distortion. But you know, I kind of envision this a little more cleaner. So it sounds really good if it just sort of lightly dampens. So you want to experiment a little bit with your karate chopper down near the saddles of the bridge, and don't really clamp down on it. Just rest it there nice and comfortably. And I always tend to get that G string to pop out a little bit. It has a cool texture to it. Okay. And the second half of that just changes the chord. The third chord change goes to a power chord down at the 4th fret of the low string. So just a fun little arpeggiated exercise, maybe some new power chord type shapes, extended power chord type shapes that you haven't seen before with that sort of sus sound, right? I messed it up, but there you go. All right, cool. Brings us to our last set of exercises for the evening, okay? So, thought I would show some bending type exercises that maybe are a little bit, definitely the last one is maybe something that's a little bit, you haven't seen quite as commonly. But the first couple of exercises, I just developed sort of something that's melodic, that incorporates some, kind of a pull-off technique and some vibrato a little bit if you want to work on those kind of things. But really what I'm doing, if I show you the first little melody right here, I'm fretting the 12th fret of the G, and then I go right back down to the 11th fret of the G and just come up a half step, bending to the note I started with. Up and down, pulling off to 9. The idea behind this bending exercise is that you can hear it right there. You want to try and tune your ear to the sound of the bend coming up to the note you started with. Okay, so I start with the G note, 12th fret of the G string. I go down 1 fret and I'm going to bend up a half step back up to G. And after I get back up to G, I'm going to bring it down and pull off 2 frets down to the 9th fret. Okay, so the idea with this exercise is that not only are we working on, kind of pulling off and holding on to a note with some vibrato, but really the point of this exercise is to try and tune that bend to get it right back to that G note that you already played. Okay? So sort of how we practice bending in tune is by thinking of the target note and just working on bending up to it. After we set our ear to, okay, this is the note we're going for. Okay? We want to bend up to it, right? So if I go too far, you want to be able to hear that, oh, I bent it too high up, right? Or not enough, right? So this just takes a melody and builds in that sort of ear training, but also just practicing some other stuff, right? So, okay. Little tip here, when I'm adding some vibrato onto a single note, particularly if I have some crunch, a little bit of distortion, right? Especially if it has more distortion on it and you don't mute around that note, sorry, it could get a little messy. These notes are going to start, or the strings are going to start to rattle a little bit, right? So what I do, if I've got a note that I'm going to hold for a while, I rest my pick on the string lower than the string I'm holding for the note. Okay, so I'm resting on that, and then my thumb is rested against muting those lower strings. And then I'll just use my free fingers to kind of just place them on the top strings. And that way, I've got all the strings muted, and what you're getting is just nothing but that string ringing out. Okay, so that could be another thing to practice with this simple. Now, exercise 6B, I'm sorry, it's not labeled that way, but the second bar of this exercise just moves it up a little bit, and we'll incorporate it with a full step bend. So now my target note is an A note, 10th fret of the B string. And then I'm going to do the full step bend on the 12th fret of the G, back down, pulling off to 11, okay? Same thing. All right, so really focus in with the ear. You're hitting that target note first and then bending up to it afterwards. That's just a great way to practice making your bends be in tune. Make sense? All right, final bending lick is a pedal steel type lick, which is really cool. Let's see if I can hit it here so you can hear what it sounds like. This one's tough, okay? Because you're holding a couple notes down here with your pinky and ring finger, 12th fret of the A and D, and it ends up, you're going to end up bending, pulling down towards the floor with your index finger, a full step in tune. Really difficult to do. Okay? First part of this is just the 12th fret of the A string. And then I'm using my middle finger on the 11th fret of the D string, and then hammering onto the pinky at the 12th fret of the D string, letting all these notes ring out. Okay, and then I'm grabbing the 9th fret of the G, and then back to the 12th fret of the A. And then the final strum is that holding the 12th fret of the A and D strings, but then bending up with your index finger, 9th fret of the G string. When you get it good, it does have that pedal steel kind of country sound, right? Probably not getting it close, but. So critical that the lick exercises before this, 6A, really work on getting your ear to hear it, because in this case, you're trying to hear the sound of that final chord, which is just a straight D major triad. Okay, that's what you're going for, but you're bending up. Break my finger, why don't you? All right, so guys can do that down here, which is freaky, okay? But there are guys that get on the telly and can do that stuff down the neck. I'm like doing it up here, and it's still very challenging. Basically what you're doing is, you know, it's sort of the lower part of what you would do with that kind of bend. You're holding the same notes up top, right? That kind of thing. But anyway, lots of fun. Cool. So there you go. That's the guitar workout for tonight. I hope you guys got some cool stuff out of it. It was fun to put together as always, and so happy that, knock on wood, it's a couple minutes left here, but seems to have technically gone pretty smooth tonight for the first time, which I'm thankful for. So index finger usually holds the note for me. Very cool. Nice. Excellent. Cool. I want to see if I missed any questions here. I think Christopher talked a lot about that E flat stuff. So Jason, just wanted to say hey to Mike and Christopher, returning to GT after a hiatus. Everything's resonating better. Awesome. And we've been helpful in the forums and lessons. Great. Excellent. All right. Perfect. Welcome back to GT. I'm glad that it's sticking this time. Right on, everybody. Well, really cool. Thanks for hanging out. We still got some time. So if you want to, if you have any other questions, we can go through some stuff here. And if anyone has any ideas for next week for a topic, shoot them at me. I'll take some notes and you know, we'll see if I can put something together for next week. If there's something that you think you'd like to see me cover, I'd really appreciate all ideas on that. Right? So rockabilly and surf. I like it already. Relative minor. Cool. Okay. Let me just get this. Not a bad idea. Let's talk a little bit about relative minor right now. We got some time. Open tunings, we could do that. That would be fun. All right. I think we give me some stuff over the next couple weeks. Excellent. Thank you. Mike had a good one. Let's talk about relative minor for a little bit here in the time remaining that we've got. So relative minor is basically when we're talking about keys or scales, for example. Let's talk about scale that we would use in a key, right? For example, if a song's in the key of C, it would be based on a C major scale. And what happens with any scale is that there's a relative minor to a major scale and vice versa. It's a relative major to a minor scale. And so what that is that it's those two key signatures that share the exact same notes. Okay, so let me play you a C major scale. Okay, so in the key of C, what's unique about the key of C is that every note is, there's no sharps and no flats. They're all naturally occurring notes. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Those are the notes in C major. Now within that major scale, there is a relative minor, and that relative minor occurs on the sixth note of the scale. So if we start on C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's an A note. Okay? So now there's the lower A note right here. I just went an octave lower. Now if I play the same notes that are contained in C major, but if I play it starting with A as the root, that would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Okay, the exact same notes, no sharps and no flats, right? I just played an A minor. That's the relative minor. I played an A minor scale. Okay, those are the exact same notes as C major. Okay? That's all the relative minor is. Okay? So you can that's it. So there's a couple shortcuts to find where that relative minor is. So for example, if you know the major root, okay, which would be, if we're staying in C here, right? To get to the relative minor, you go down 3 frets. 2, 3. So that takes you to the open string. Or let's do it here. Okay, here's a C note, 8th fret of the low string. If I go down 3 frets, 1, 2, 3, that's going to tell me what the root is of the relative minor. Okay? That's it. So, C major, what's the relative minor? Go down 3 frets, play a minor chord. There it is. All right, we could go into a lot more detail of how to use this sort of relationship, how it's commonly used in music. I'm going to run out of time doing that, so hopefully that just sort of lets you know from the, kind of, and in the last minute, I will let you know that, for example, you can use these, because they share the same notes, you can use the same scale patterns, right? But apply them to the relative minor or the relative major. So for example, A minor, a lot of people learn the A minor pentatonic scale pattern, the box, right? Okay. Now, if I wanted to play in A major pentatonic, I think I just froze a little bit there. Sorry. No, if I wanted to play an A major pentatonic, all I have to do is come down 3 frets and use the same pattern. Okay? Because of that relationship. So that's a real shortcut, right? Is you can play a minor pentatonic and you can use that same scale pattern 3 frets down for A major pentatonic. Okay, so that's a real quick way to use those and switch it up between major and minor. Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much for your suggestions. Applying harmonic and melodic minor is a great suggestion as well. Thank you for that. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you got something out of it, and we'll be back on YouTube same time next week, in 1 week from tonight, if it is nighttime where you're at, which it is for me. But anyway, I thank you all for hanging out tonight. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for hanging out. All right. Take care, everybody.